What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA Show, part of the All-City Podcast Network and presented by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler. Legs, I hope your night was better than mine. I had to watch the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, well, listen, some nights that's not a bad gig. I understand where you're coming from last night. So I think all in all, you got to count your blessings that that's the team you watch more than any other. But I hear what you're saying about last night for sure.
Nothing sadder, man, when a good team is just struggling like this and you worry it's over. It's scary stuff, man. But of course, the Cavs beat Denver. We're not talking about that game. The Cavs are beating everybody. Instead, today we're going to break down the Suns a little bit on the struggle bus. The Pelicans had some guys come back and look pretty good. So we're going to break that game down. The Kings are on the struggle bus. The Grizzlies getting healthy and also looking good. So we'll talk about those two games. And then later on, we had a good super chat yesterday that led to a new segment. We're going to ask if you could share 3 games from NBA history with a fan that's never watched the NBA. And you want to say, this is what I love about it. Watch these 3. What would they be? Legs made a list. I made a list. We're going to break those down. But we're going to start, Legs, with our first game, a Western Conference matchup, the Grizzlies and the Kings. Let me tell you a couple stats from this one. Memphis Grizzlies had 22 turnovers. Ja Morant was a minus 32 and got ejected early in the fourth quarter. And yet they won. Those two stats, man, I would never have guessed it. But yet here we are. What happened?
Well, a few things. First of all, let's talk about the ejection because it was kind of head scratching. He got a technical, 2 technicals a minute 20 apart. So they weren't even like back to back, same time, same play. They were literally a minute 20 crunch time, mid fourth quarter. Ja Morant, and I'm going to tell you right now, the second technical, the foul that was called on him that led to him getting that technical. Now, don't get me wrong, you have to control your emotions if you already have one. You know, and they let him go a little bit. He reacted. They called him for a foul on DeRozan. It was a horrible call. Horrible. DeRozan is trying to post him up in the mid-range. He turns around like a 15-foot turnaround jumper. Ja Morant, first of all, he takes a couple shots like to his chest as DeRozan's backing him down. He sort of stands his ground, but gives a little bit. And then DeRozan spins out to go to that fadeaway jumper that he loves. Ja Morant, his body never came forward at all. He completely went vertical, put one hand in the air, made no contact with his shooting arm at all. I mean, it's really, I think, one of the worst calls in that circumstance I've seen all year. Yeah. So whatever, they make the call. It was a bad call. He reacted emotionally. He's sort of pounding his fist into his hand. He's walking away from the official, but then he turns and he sort of heads back over toward their bench. Memphis's bench. Taylor Jenkins is losing his mind at the time. And he just couldn't control himself. He couldn't stop in the moment. And then he pointed dead at the official and said something. And then that was the final straw. And they tossed him. He probably had, Adam, I bet you he had 15 seconds, 20 seconds of them letting him vent his emotions prior to getting the technical foul.
Yeah.
And you're just too important to your team. So he's got to have better judgment in that situation. Like I said, I'm defending him for his reaction. It's a terrible call. It happens in this league, but when you've already got a T, you've got to be real careful that you're on the floor to close the game for your team. So I just wanted to talk about that first. I don't know if you saw that sequence. Okay, I just wanted to get your thoughts.
And then after the game, I don't know if you saw this, but after the game, there was a pool report with the officials, and the official said, yeah, it was not a foul. When we reviewed it after the game, it was not a foul, so it was a bad call. I hate this, and you are right. First of all, the bar for throwing a player out of a game if they're in an argument with an official, I think should be ridiculously high. This league is going to survive on the power of the stars. And most ejections come from confrontations with an official of some type. That being said, you are right that I thought they did give him a long time. It was a long cool down period where they just kind of listened to it. And to your point, it did feel like the moment had passed. And then it was like, nope, we're going back into it. And I think that's why he got the tech. But whatever. I hate when stars get ejected. So I'm always going to be anti-ejection. And it didn't cost the outcome of the game. I don't think you could say they would have lost this game, if Ja was there. They played phenomenal down the stretch, but obviously it was a huge loss.
Big loss. It was back and forth down the stretch there, and honestly, the game was won by Memphis's bench. That was the story of the game. Their bench was incredible, and it goes back to something we talked about a couple of weeks ago when I had called one of their games, and then we came on and talked about it. And I said, Taylor Jenkins has discovered added depth he didn't know he had at the start of the year. Like, he didn't expect Jay Huff to be playing major minutes for them and being a major contributor. LaRavia, he played some for them last year. I don't think he expected this kind of role for LaRavia. Jalen Wells was a guy that kind of just kind of came out of nowhere for them, a Division II Player of the Year like less than 2 years ago, and he's starting for you at the 2 guard. So you knew about the other guys. I mean, you knew about obviously Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Marcus Smart and Brandon Wright and Aldama. Like, those guys were mainstays. They didn't know where the depth was going to come from. And now it turns out they have one of the deeper benches in the NBA. They outscored the starters in this game 60-55. And they had 2 critical stretches in this game that, to me, is the whole reason they won, was because of the way that the bench played for the majority of the game. So I think that's what stood out to me more than anything else. Their bench was dominant, better than the starters were in this game. And that happens some nights in the NBA. And so that's why depth matters. And that's what really good teams can do. They can beat you on nights when their best players don't have big games or their starting unit isn't particularly effective. Their bench bailed them out. I thought they were great.
Well, real quick, you said they outscored him 60-55. You meant 60-15. It was an incredible.
No. I meant their bench outscored their starters.
Oh, their starters. Gotcha. Okay.
Their bench had 60 points in this game. Their starters had 55.
Even
that's the number that jumped out to me, because the 2 key stretches in this game were both really their bench. And it was energy. It was shot making. It was a little bit of everything. And it's just, man, it makes you look at Memphis a little bit differently, I think, when you look at the number of guys that contribute for that team on a nightly basis.
And we've talked about how that's one of the market inefficiencies in the NBA right now, is there's like 6 teams that have a bench. They're one of them because, and I think by virtue of they've had so many injuries, everybody's played, they've developed a confidence and a rhythm. And so now they have that punch. To your point, Jay Huff was closing this game. I think they took him out with like 1:30 to go and put Jaren Jackson Jr. in to have a little bit more switchability out on the perimeter, I think. But he played the big minutes in the 4th quarter and he was phenomenal. And he's such an example of what we're talking about with this team. He had an incredible drive and dish to the corner late. He had a 360 dunk from the baseline late in this game. And he's just an example of a guy who's like, all right, he has some strengths, he has some weaknesses. How do we build our roster to tailor it to get this guy going? And he doesn't rebound a ton, but he's just out spacing the floor. He'll play the dunker spot or he'll pop to the top of the key, and it just opens everything up for them.
He doesn't rebound a ton, you're right, but you know what he does do? He's a really good shot blocker. And I don't know if this is still the case. Earlier in the year, maybe 15 games in, he was leading the NBA in blocks off the bench. So he's got this, he doesn't look like he's going to be that athletic, right? We just watch the guy. And then he's got these crazy reverse dunks. He does like these reverse lobs where he catches it. And it looks like the right play is to just dunk it normally. And he'll twist in the air and throw it behind his head. Even the play he had last night, you're talking about, like, there was penetration. They hit him. He's on the left side of the rim. He could just easily go up and 2-hand dunk it. Instead, he jumps and decides in midair, oh, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and spin it and dunk it behind my head. It's just a little flair, a little showmanship. He obviously has great comfortability and spatial awareness to be able to dunk the ball behind his head as easily as he does. But so he doesn't rebound, he does block shots, and he's athletic and he stretches the floor. Big time 3-point shooter. So look, Memphis, sit here now, they're 15-8. They withstood the period of time that they had to go without Ja Morant. And you look up now, Ja Morant on the year has only played 13 games. So he's played a little over half their games, and they're 15-8, and they're red hot. And the depth that they have and the star power they have as well all that adds up to Memphis being, I think, a major factor in the Western Conference.
I think so too. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, they haven't played healthy enough and with Ja enough for me to know their ceiling. But at the same time, they are the 4 seed right now at 15-8, tied basically for the 3 seed with Dallas. They're +8 differential. They've won 8 of their last 10. It's just how many times do we keep doing this for you? You're going to believe in them. I think it's time to probably believe in them, that they're just a solid team. But on the other side is maybe more interesting to me. You got the Sacramento Kings. We haven't talked about them very much this year. But last night, on the road, they had every opportunity to win this game. Ja goes out. You're in the clutch. You even have a lead late, and you still drop it. They're 10-13. They feel like they've lost some identity. They don't play very fast. I think they're 18th in pace. Their bench didn't score last night. Guys like Keon Ellis aren't even playing. I almost made Keon Ellis my guy this year. He was like the last guy cut on the my guys list, and he's not even playing this year. So what's going on with them? Why are they having a crisis of identity right now?
Yeah, look, I think, if you look at their offensive just efficiency and rating, it's still pretty decent. It's top 10 in the league right now. But when you looked at this team over the last couple of years, prior to the arrival of DeMar DeRozan, that was their calling card, was how hard they were to guard, right? Everything was predicated on Fox and Sabonis ball screen. If Sabonis be able to handle the ball out on the perimeter, all kinds of multiple action sets and ball never staying on one side of the floor, always getting to a reversal. And then Sabonis so good at catching it from one wing and immediately turning full speed, go to the opposite wing to create action while the defense is shifting out of their initial rotation. Like it's kind of what made them who they were. A lot of slashing off the weak side. Big factor for them last year, the emergence. And you and I were talking about it. And I guess if you want to call him one of my guys, I guess Keegan Murray may be one of my guys.
Sure.
Keegan Murray had a big step forward last year, I thought. That has been completely stunted by the arrival of DeMar DeRozan. And their style is just different. Their efficiency is okay, but one area that is dramatically different, they were 4th in the league in made threes per game last year. They're 26th.
Man.
So you look at it and say, okay, well, the efficiency is still decent, but the problem is their way that they're operating offensively is so different. Look, and DeMar DeRozan is an efficient player. So what he does is always going to be pretty efficient. He's 49% again this year from the field, but he doesn't give you 3-point threat. It's a different way he wants to play. He's going to put it down more often than not when he catches it multiple times. He's going to back you down and go into moves where everybody's kind of standing and waiting to see what he's going to do. And it's just a totally different feel to watching them offensively. Now, when they added him, Adam, I thought, why not? Because I didn't think what they had with Fox and Sabonis was good enough because of Sabonis's offensive limitations at sometimes wasn't going to be good enough for them to be able to beat teams in the Western Conference playoffs. He's a great player, but there's nights where he's going to give you 14 points. Your top 2 guys in the playoffs, you got to be penciling in 50 to 60 between those guys. Like every night they're getting to that number. So when they added DeRozan, I said, why not? This guy's got a ton of playoff experience. He's a big shot maker. He can make contested shots, which are important in the playoffs because it's harder to get easy stuff. And I thought it was worth the risk. I don't think I like this team more than I've liked them the last 2 years. And I'm not putting it on and blaming DeMar DeRozan. They knew what they were getting into stylistically. There's something about this team that feels a lot different. And the firepower that they had in the offense and how quickly they got into their stuff and they made you guard them all over the floor. It just feels different. The ball at some point is going to end up in DeRozan's hands in the half court, and it's going to kind of slow everything down for them from that point on. And I thought them, a team like Indiana last year, Sacramento, I think these were the hard teams to guard, because of the way that they played, how fast they got the ball up the floor into their sets, all kinds of action that you had to defend initially. And it was working, but it wasn't probably going to be good enough for the playoffs. They took a chance, and I don't think it's worked out the way that they wanted it to.
Another thing I'm curious about on the point you're talking about, changing styles, this was a brick fest in the fourth quarter by both directions. Guys actually missed a lot of shots. But one thing that Sacramento does, and they've always done, is they generate switches and then they'll attack. Well, if you miss on a switch, then you're mismatched in transition more often than not. And I thought that happened a lot. Like nobody was going to score in this game in the half court down the stretch, but they were giving up a couple, just one or two transition plays where it was like you had a switch, you missed the layup, and now guards are on centers, centers are on guards the other direction, and it was easy, quick points. So I think if that's your identity, but now you have a half court, maybe slow it down. Maybe that's just a bad combination of we have to convert when we get switches, but if we don't, we're a bad team in transition. I don't know. Just something I was thinking watching last night.
Well, I think, for me, I'm going to get back to the point I made first. I felt like Keegan Murray was a critical part of this team going
Yeah.
forward. I really liked his potential as a scorer. You just look at kind of the way he's playing. You don't notice him right now. I think he's got 100 points in his last 10 games. He was a guy last year that got up into that, most nights, a bad night was 15. Like he was having nights over 20 pretty consistently. His shooting splits were coming up. He was gaining confidence. 2 years ago, I thought he was hesitant to pull the trigger on some shots. They really encouraged him to shoot the ball last year. He came into his own. I said, okay, here we go. Here's the ascension for him. And now he's had 1, 2, 3, 5 out of his last 10 games in single digits. He has become the afterthought. And I
Crazy.
thought the way he played and his ability to get into his 3-point shot and was going to be really important for them. And I just don't think their offense is operating anywhere near the way that it has the last couple of years with this team. They were a 3 seed 2 years ago in the West. And I mean,
Yep.
part of that was injuries that year. They took advantage of that because they were healthy. And they ended
Yeah.
up losing in the first round that year anyway, to a Golden
In
State
7.
team. Yeah, it took 50 out of Steph Curry in a game 7
Yeah.
to be able to do that. And or else they advanced to the second round. And it really felt like the start of something really good there. And it doesn't really feel that way right now. So they're a much more difficult team to watch. It's not as fun. And I also just don't think they've got the rhythm and chemistry because DeMar DeRozan requires a certain style that you have to acquiesce to, or else you don't bring him in there. And they've done it. And I think it's affected overall the quality of their offense.
We're selling the Kings, man. I hate it. I love Kings fans. I like the Kings. They're a team I like to see do well, and they rarely do, man. What a bummer. Let's take a break. On the other side, another team that's on the struggle bus that I'm a little surprised at, the Phoenix Suns. They fall to the Pelicans, but the Pelicans get Herb Jones and Brandon Ingram back. Maybe that was the reason. Let's take a break, and we'll get to those two teams on the other side. We're only a couple weeks away from New Year's, and that means you got to start making your new goals, including your fitness goals for 2025. So from a core that won't quit to arms worth flexing, Fitbod is the perfect companion to keep your exercises fresh and yourself accountable. This is a phenomenal app. These apps keep getting better and better, and this is an app where you just type in what your goals are for your workout plan. You want to work out 3 times a week. You want to do 30-minute workouts. You want to lose weight. You want to gain muscle. These are the areas of your body you want to focus on. Whatever your goals are, you just plug it in and it'll give you workouts that fit what you're going for. And they have incredible things on there. Like you can say what equipment you have at home, what equipment's at your gym. If you're traveling on the road, staying in a hotel, you don't have a full gym, you just got kind of a small one. You say, here's what I'm working with, and it'll adapt a workout plan for whatever is available to you. It's really, really great. And it also helps keep you accountable. You'll set up a schedule and say, my goal is to work out 3-4 times a week for this long or that long. And it'll remind you, hey, it's time. You missed yesterday. Let's get out there today. It's a really, really great tool that's very easy to use. And right now, you can lock in and stay focused by joining Fitbod today to get your personal workout plan. And you get 25% off your subscription, or you can try the app for free for 7 days. You'll know in 7 days how great this app is. So try it for free for 7 days at fitbod.me/allNBA. That's fitbod.me/allNBA. Another area you might be making goals is for your small business. Let's talk about goals for a minute. How are you tracking with the ones you set for your business earlier this year? Are you close? And if not, do you know why you haven't hit them? Can you believe we're already here at the end of the year and it's time to start looking forward? You have year-end goals. Constant Contact has what it takes to help you meet them faster. No matter how experienced you are with digital marketing, Constant Contact has the tools to make your marketing run smoother, sell more, raise more, and build more genuine relationships with your audience with Constant Contact suite of digital marketing tools, all made to fast track your success. You no longer need to struggle with expensive, slow, and unmeasurable approaches to marketing your small business. Tap email marketing that helps you create and send the perfect email to every customer. Own the smartphone by adding texting to your marketing strategy, and connect with over 2 billion people on social media with an all-in-one tool for posting and sharing. Time to put the go in your 2024 business goals with email, social, SMS, and customized marketing campaigns built for you in just a few clicks. Ready, set, go to constantcontact.com/allcity and start your free trial today. That's constantcontact.com/ALLCITY for your free trial. All right, back here, segment 2 of the All NBA show. Hit that like button for us. Leave us a comment. Let us know. Later on in the show, we're going to be talking about the 3 best games you would show a new NBA fan that tells them, like, this is why you're going to love basketball. Let us know. We're going to get that to in a second. But first, one game you would not send that person was last night's Suns-Pelicans game. The Suns drop to the Pelicans. The Pelicans get Brandon Ingram back. He had missed, I believe, 5 or 6 games. They get Herb Jones back, who missed the entire month of November. He hadn't played since the last week of October. They get those 2 players back and legs. They look like a little bit more of a coherent team. They get the win. No Kevin Durant in this game for the Suns, but, you know, mostly healthy from everybody else. So why did the Suns drop this one?
Well, I think some of the decision-making down the stretch, to me, was the difference in this game. And look, you don't have KD, so you're trying to close it out with Booker and Beal, and that's what you're going to do. You put themselves in position to win, and very odd play happened in this game. So Devin Booker, in a span of a minute and a half late in the game, gets fouled 3 times on drives and aggressively trying to get into his shot. 3 times. Goes to the line 6 times, makes all 6 free throws. Now, fast forward another 30 seconds or so. So now we're into a situation. It is a tie game, 121 after his second of 2 free throws. It's 121 all. You go down the other end of the floor. CJ McCollum makes a pretty tough shot with 35 seconds to go, like a running bank shot. They go up 2. You go inside of a minute. You go the other direction. Devin Booker penetrates, beats his man off the dribble. He's got a clear driving lane to the rim. He goes in. Brandon Ingram comes over as like the last line of defense. And I know he's long, but you're Devin Booker. You just got 3 whistles in a row. For some reason, man, as Brandon Ingram is coming across the lane, he decides that, like, that's impenetrable. I can't go over Brandon Ingram. And he throws a kind of a wild hook pass out toward the 3-point line. Grayson Allen catches the ball just inside 30 feet and shoots a 3, misses it. And that pretty much was the key defining possession until the last play of the game. They still had a chance on a sideline out of bounds. The Suns down 2. They get it in. They didn't execute it very well. Booker comes off, catches the ball at the top of the key, and Herb Jones just completely locks him up. He tries to go by him. He slides, cuts him off. By the time Booker changes direction and spins out of it, basically the horn goes off without getting a shot off. So Herb Jones makes the defensive play at the end of the game. But I thought Devin Booker's decision in that situation to not try to plow through Brandon Ingram's chest when you've gotten 3 calls in a row, like most scorers, you're feeling that whistle. You're feeling really good. You're going to get the call. But instead, they kind of go for the home run. He throws it out to Grayson Allen, takes a 30-footer, misses it. Game. It's a wrap. And the Pelicans, on a night, you're right. Brandon Ingram was great coming back, 29 points, huge third quarter. Herb Jones played very well for them. You get major contributions from those guys. That was great. But the Suns still were in great position to win this game. And they didn't. They didn't close. They didn't execute. Kevin Durant's on the floor. Maybe it's a different result.
Herb Jones is actually incredible, man. That guy is such an incredible defensive player. To miss the amount of time he did and to come back and make the impact that he had, I thought is incredible. By the way, playing 32 minutes. And then you mentioned Ingram, not my favorite player, full disclosure. But when he gets hot, he's up there with some of the best, and just his ability to make shots. And you mentioned it, the third quarter, about halfway through the third quarter, all the way to the end of it, he had this run where everything he was throwing up was going in. He was so in his zone. And plays like that, or moments like that, stretches, they're almost more frustrating for him because you see it and you go like, these are far too infrequent, for a player of his caliber. But they were impressive. I mean, he's such a good isolation scorer when he's getting, repeated chances at it.
And look, we got to state the obvious here. When it comes to the Phoenix Suns, the bottom line is this. And look, unfortunately for them, it seems to have be the theme with this team since they paired these 3 stars together. They're hardly ever out there together. And that's the bottom line. And then when Durant plays this year, I think the record is, something like, I looked it up the other day, 11-2, 11-3, something like that. When Durant plays, when he doesn't play, you struggle. Yeah. I mean, that seems like that would be an obvious statement, but at the same time, you have to put it into context. What's going on with this team? But so, okay, let's just say, give him the benefit of the doubt, Durant didn't play. When he doesn't play, they struggle. But are these guys all going to be together later in the year when you need him to be. I mean, I just don't know where this large sample size of work together comes from that you think that that's going to happen. There's a lot
Right.
of injuries that have taken place with these guys, and at the end of the day, that's what it's going to take. I believed in them coming into the year. I believed in the narrative changing about this team. It certainly was that way out of the gate. They were great offensively to start the year. I like some of the new pieces they added with their stars. I like the coach that they hired, Mike Budenholzer. But here they are sort of floundering around a little bit above 500 because they're waiting for Kevin Durant to come back. And that's just the reality of the NBA, man. It's hard to win without your best player. And Kevin
Yeah.
Durant not being there means the Suns, when he doesn't play, they're a mediocre team. When he plays, they have a legitimate shot to make some noise in the West. And they've been playing without him for a while now.
One guy, quick mention I'm curious about, Grayson Allen, who's enormous. And by design, he got enormous this summer on purpose. He's shooting 35% from the three-point line, but more interesting to me, he's taking about a quarter of the shots per game at the rim as he was last year, 1/4, and really about his career average. And I just look at that and I go, guy put on a bunch of weight to be big, to be bulky, and all of a sudden he can't get to the rim and is less of an impact on defense. Such a weird decision. Do you see that, or is this just an early slump and I'm trying to connect dots that aren't there?
I mean, he definitely looks different. His body looks different. And, when you started out the year hurt, dealing with some stuff in the preseason, um, his shooting splits are so dramatically different from what he was a year ago. You kind of wonder what's going on with him. It's not
Yeah.
just the fact that his body type looks a little bit different. It's like his style of game and the rhythm with which
Yeah.
he's getting shots is completely different. And he was a major impact for them. And in fact, to such an extent, I actually was praising I was giving him praise all year, Adam, because of how much of a more all around player he was than I thought he was. Because he defends hard. Like he is a very conscientious defender. He's not going to necessarily be super quick laterally, but he's going to fight you and he's very strong and he's going to stay with the play. He's never going to give up on a play. And
Yeah.
he started taking the ball to the basket well last year, whether drives or slashes. And he also had games with double-digit assists last year where that was what was required on a given night. So his all-around game flourished a year ago, and he has yet to find it this year. You're right, 35% from the three, 46% a year ago. And that is a dramatic difference, basically taking the same number of attempts. He's just not been the same threat that he was, and that is a major part of their spacing. When Grayson Allen is doing the things he's capable of, it makes it a lot easier for their star players. So that is something to keep an eye on to find out if this is just a guy that didn't have a normal lead up to the season. And sometimes it takes guys a little bit longer to find their rhythm and find their flow. Keep an eye on Grayson Allen, though, to see if he's going to snap out of this and start stringing together shots for them.
Let's move on now because it's Friday. I want to have a little bit of fun here. And we were asked the question yesterday as a super chat about what 3 games would you show? So new NBA fan here, 3 historic games I should watch. And what you're really saying here is like 3 games that either tell the story of the history of the NBA or 3 games that really rope you in. So you're going to be a fan. You watch these games and you're going to get it. And we each made our lists. Legs, yours is going to be more interesting than mine. So I'll go first here. And I'm curious if we had any games that are the exact same. I'm going to start.
That would be amazing because, full disclosure,
a lot of games.
You and I have not discussed this at
not.
all in terms of what our list looks like. So,
and you're going to go back a little bit further than me. I'm really 90s and on.
I swear to you, if you put a 22 rebound game from Hartenstein in this list,
you know what, man?
We're done.
I will say my honorable mention was a Jokic game. I was like, all right, this is too biased. I'll save this for another time.
I expected one Jokic game in there from you. Come on.
I know. I dropped the ball. So the first one I have on here, the Warriors Thunder Game 6 from 2016. This was the Warriors were down 3-1. They win Game 5. They come back. And then you get the huge 41-point Clay performance, and you get the Thunder got outscored 33-18 with the Warriors with their back against the wall on the road. And the reason I like this one is if you're trying to show people the joy of basketball, it's a great Steph Curry Warriors game because, they had their style comeback. Ball was popping in the fourth. You get the contrast of that to a very different style with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook's Thunder. So you get that, and you just get great stakes. That was a great rivalry game with great stakes. that's a game I would show people because I think it shows a lot of storylines from the last 10 years or so.
I love that game. I mean, that's one of the most memorable games I think of my career in covering the league since I retired as a player. I'll never forget that game. And you think about what that really meant that night. That might have been the shot for Durant and
Yeah,
Westbrook to win together,
no
right? And they
question.
had been so good in Oklahoma City, so entertaining. Both of those guys, that was their chance. Close them out at home. And who knows what happens in the finals, but that might have been their year. And instead, Klay Thompson has a lot to say about that. And I love the fact that you got the Warriors in there, and you're going to see, I've got a Warriors game too. It's different than that. But I think, I think the Warriors, if you're trying to
You
tell the
kind of have
story
to.
of the NBA to someone that's never seen it,
Yeah.
and you want to encapsulate the entertainment value and the fun and what basketball could look like at the highest level offensively, I think you got to put a Warriors game in there. So I have no problem with that one.
A funny storyline from that game that's gone to history now, but the Warriors, people wondered if they were front runners because in 2015, they won from start to finish. Then they won the title. And then in 2016, they won 73 games. They never trailed. And all of a sudden in that series, they trailed for real, 3-1. And so for them to respond in that game, it was almost like you beat the front runner allegations. It's like, no, they can also win with their back against the wall. Not only do I have another Warriors game, I have another 2016 Warriors game in here. I have game 7 of the 2016 finals, which is another just all-time iconic game. And you get LeBron, the chase down block, you get the comeback, you get the dueling 40 pieces from him and Kyrie. To me, that's an all-time game. It's one of the best games of my entire lifetime. And again, you get a lot of history in it.
I think that's a good choice. I was actually contemplating that game because I think that rivalry has to be captured. I think the LeBron James component, obviously you're trying to tell the story of the league. You want LeBron in there, and it involves the Warriors as well. A lot of storytelling associated with that game, that series, the players in it. So I think that's a good one.
And then lastly, my one, I went back, and you have to have an MJ game in there. You have to. There's all the iconic ones, flu game 6. You might have picked one of those ones. I actually went with game 4, 1993 finals, because you get a triple-double from Chuck. Jordan gets 55 points. It was unbelievable. One of the better Jordan finals games, one of the better finals games, period, 55 points. And I think when you go back, some of those other games you go back and watch, and there's a memorable highlight, a memorable moment at the end of this or that. That game from start to finish was unbelievable. Neither team could stop the other one. He had crazy shot making. It's super entertaining. And it was a big deal. That was the one where it was like, all right, they're going to three-peat, which obviously was a huge deal in 1993.
Incredibly, I picked that one too.
No way! You're kidding.
Got it written down right here
This
on my
is
notepad.
hilarious. No way.
It's unreal, man. So yeah, and look,
That's
you
crazy.
did a good job kind of summarizing that. So here's for me in thinking about the way we set this up in the context of it, telling the story to someone that's never seen it. Obviously, you got to get Jordan in there, right? So for me, Michael Jordan has probably 3 super iconic finals games.
Okay, what are they?
He has the 35-point first half against the Blazers.
Yep. Game 1.
He has, of course, the final shot of his career.
Game 6,
Not his career, but as a Bull, 1998
yeah.
game winner against Utah Jazz. And then this game, 55, double nickel in the finals against the Suns team. That was a great team. Chuck's MVP year, triple-double out of Barkley, 32, 12, and 10. Jordan has 55. A very close game, pretty much the entire way. Unbelievably entertaining. So that was I was looking for a Jordan game, and I thought long and hard on it. There's a lot of different places I could go. A lot of people might say, well, maybe the shot against Utah more so for Jordan, but also that wasn't necessarily like the greatest game you've ever watched. It ended great.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit ugly at times. This
very
game was
ugly.
not
Honestly,
ugly. This game was incredible. So yeah, that's amazingly all the games in history to pick, and we both
that one
the same game out of the 3. That's unbelievable to me. I really did not think when you said, I wonder if we picked any. I said, there's no chance we picked any of the same games. It's too random.
It's crazy. You also had the flu game from Jordan, by the way, but just like these other ones, it's more iconic almost than rewatchable. I mean, it's a really big moment. But this game, I'm telling you, if it's on YouTube, you go watch it. It's a phenomenal game. It just is incredible shot making from start to finish, and a lot of big names on the court. So it's a lot of good dynamic players. All right, what are your other two? So that one.
All right. So the other one, I thought first thing popped in my head immediately was I have to tell the story of the Magic Bird rivalry in
Okay.
the 80s. Like I have to include that for anybody because I don't know, for me still I might consider that the greatest era ever. And that's really subjective and biased because that's when I was at my height of falling in love with the game of basketball. My high school through college was 80 to 88. I mean, that's what this
Yeah.
was, man. It was Celtics, Lakers, it was Bird, Magic. There were other great teams in the league, by the way, at the time. Rockets were great. The Sixers were great. So there were other great teams during that stretch. But, to me, you got to encapsulate Bird, Magic. And the one, so I'm thinking, okay, now how do I find the one game at the NBA level that kind of summarizes that? Another game 4 of the NBA Finals, 1984. Overtime game, Boston on the road, down 2-1, go into LA, and they win the game in overtime to get it to 2-2, ends up in a Celtics title. So Bird won 3 titles in his career, 81, 84, and 86. This is that middle one in 84. And they're down 2-1. They lose that game. They're not coming back 3-1 against that Lakers team. So think about the way that changes. Like Bird ended with only 2 championships. It sounds a lot different than 3. So
Yeah.
for me, and it's like these 2 players, man, to me, what they did to elevate the NBA coming into the league when they did, I got to get that matchup. And that's the game that I chose. In that game, Bird, 29 points, 21 rebounds, the most rebounds he ever had in a game against the Lakers. Magic
29,
triple-double, 20 points, 11 boards, 17 assists. Kareem had 32 points. And here's what's an amazing number from this game. You ready for this?
Yeah.
The 2 teams, now the 3-point shot came in at 79. The 2 teams in this game combined from the 3-point line were 2 for 4.
50%.
The Lakers did not attempt a 3-point shot in the game.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean,
yeah,
it'd only been around at that point for a few years.
Man. Yeah. So anyway, what are your thoughts on that?
So I was wondering, and I assumed you would take a Magic and Bird one because it's needed. I didn't know which game. It's just it's before my history. I was born that year, so that game I was about 3 months old. So I like it, and now it makes me want to go. If that's the game you're picking, it makes me want to go and watch that in its entirety. I like seeing those old games uncut because you always see it condensed, whatever. It doesn't tell the story from when you actually watch them and get a sense of the rhythm of a game.
Basically, the game-winning shot too, Bird hit, man, it was great because he was wrestling with Magic Johnson in the post, like fighting so hard to get position. Magic fronting him, 3-quarter him. It took forever. These 2 guys wrestling in the post. Finally, Bird gets it, shot clock winding down, and he catches it, and without any hesitation, he just goes to a fadeaway jumper from about maybe 14, 15 feet over Magic for the shot that sealed it. And you think about, Magic had one in the Garden, pretty memorable. The running hook shot to win in Boston Garden that basically gave the Lakers a championship in that series over McHale, over Parrish. Bird was in that picture, so it's almost him shooting over 3 Hall of Famers. Bird got him in 84 with that shot that got it to 2-2, and then the Celtics went on to win that series. So, it changed my life forever watching those guys because I was mainly baseball until I saw those 2 teams, those 2 players come into the league right when I was starting high school. And it changed what I wanted to do with my life. I really can't overstate that.
That's
so
crazy.
I had to put that in there. And then the last one, I said I had a Warriors game.
Yeah, I'm so curious.
Ironically, these 3 games I picked, you and I agreed on the game 4 in 93. I just gave you a game 4 in 84.
Okay.
My other one is a game 4 in 2022. So
okay.
To me,
the most recent Warriors, surprising.
Correct. And for me, here's why. I thought I've got to if I'm telling this story to somebody, I have to include the most entertaining player of the last 15 years in the NBA, which is Steph Curry.
Yeah.
And for me, that might be his signature game of his career. Down 2-1 against Boston in Boston. He goes for 43 points against a team they were not favored to beat. This is post Kevin Durant. You think about it. You win one before Durant, Curry kind of emerges on the scene as what he is. Then they add Durant. They win 2 more. Durant gets both finals MVP. Steph sort of sacrificed in that role for that. Now Durant's gone. Nobody thinks maybe they're going to make another run to that level. Curry not only leads them back there, he gives them a 43-point game, going 14 for 26 from the field, 7 for 14 from the
On tough
3.
shot.
In a game 4 on the road that ultimately catapults them to another championship, his 4th of his career. And I think very important for his place historically to get that one after Durant. I just thought that was very important for him in terms of context and legacy and resume and all of those things for Steph Curry and where you would place him ultimately in your top 10, top 20, wherever you would put him. I thought that was a critical game. So I had to get Curry in there. So let's get a game like that with all of that at stake for the Warriors and Curry and what it meant, and give you a 7 for 14 game from the 3. So you see what we've been watching since the day this guy came into the league.
That one was certainly important in terms of Steph Curry's legacy, and obviously it's the game that won them because that was the pivotal game in that series. They go on to win the next 2, including the next one at home. So that one, there's no question that's where it swung, and he was awesome. And he kind of needed a moment like that on that stage. He'd had plenty of them, prior to that, but that moment, you're right, that was big. I still don't know if it was the most fun Warriors game though. There's so many. The truth is, if I was,
you could go with the Curry game, a regular season game against Oklahoma City.
I almost did.
40. Yeah, I mean, you could go with that game if you want. I mean, there's so many Curry moments, but I was trying to pick one that was a fun,
meaningful
Curry game. That's really what my focus was. Give me a game that Curry was great, and then with great meaning behind it. And I just felt like that might have been, like I said, I've defined it as his signature game of his career. I think it might have been the most important game that he played in his career to deliver the way that he did to set up their ability to come back in that series from down 2-1 and win the next 3.
I think some omissions, some ones that could have made it here. Game 6 of the 2013 finals, the Ray Allen shot game. That was an incredible game and obviously an incredible ending. One of the most surprising endings of all time. A game I wanted to put in here, but it wouldn't really make sense. Game 5 of the 2014 finals. Nobody remembers this one. The Spurs were up 3-1 and the Heat, it was their last hurrah. They get up 20 to start the game, and you think, okay, they're going to punch back. But that Spurs team was as connected as I've ever seen a team. I didn't see the Bird and Lakers Magic, that era of teams. I know they played connected. The Spurs' ability to absorb a 20-point haymaker in the first quarter to then be up 20 by halftime, it was unbelievable. They were a machine, and that was the best basketball I've ever watched, just team basketball. They were on a string. So let us know in the comments, what games would you put in your top 3? I want somebody to fall in love with the game. Here are the 3 games I'm going to show them. Let us know what you would have picked. I like that. By the way, great super chat. Let's get to the weekend slate presented by FanDuel. It is time, of course, for that weekend slate presented by FanDuel, as we always do. We take a look on Friday. We've got the Bucks at the Celtics, Middleton's return. That highlights. Kings Spurs should be there. Wolves Warriors is interesting as well. But Bucks Celtics is what I've got my eye on tonight, Legs.
Yeah, look, and it's a big one, I think, for Milwaukee. Milwaukee's played much better. They're winning games, but we pointed it out. I believe it was yesterday. We talked about the fact you do have to look at who they're beating, and they've struggled against good teams. And so this, for me, you get Middleton back. No, I don't think anybody's expecting Middleton to be great. I mean, that's a long time off. So he's going to be shaking off some rust. But more importantly, it is make a statement to everybody that you can defend this team. Can you defend Boston? And can you now have a win against a quality team? And I haven't even looked. Is anybody out for Boston? Because I feel like there's always somebody out for everybody.
I haven't heard either, but I hope not. Yeah, I hope we get a full strength matchup tonight because that would be great.
And win or lose, by the way, I think win or lose for the Bucks, it's just important that they make this a game, represent themselves, and build off of the momentum that they have right now. For having won some games. So looking at the injury report, Porzingis is out. He's the only person listed. No, everybody's listed game time decision for the Bucks. Porzingis is the only guy out for the Boston Celtics.
Well, there you go. All righty. What else we got on the rundown here, James? What do we have on Saturday? Pull it back up for me. Saturday, Grizzlies at Celtics should be a good one. Grizzlies on a run. That'll be second night of a back-to-back for the Celtics. Suns at Heat. Cavs at Hornets. Not the greatest Saturday, but those 3 games are interesting.
Well, same thing, it's the Celtics again involved, but this time it's Memphis. And they're a team that's playing really well, and they are making themselves quickly relevant in the West, where you now it's like, hey man, some of these other teams that got out of the gate slow, Memphis was one of those teams as well, but look what they've done to turn this around because they got their guy back. Some of these other teams that were expecting to be there, I think their best basketball is going to be down the road. Right now, Memphis is playing great. So perfect timing. Go into Boston and again, get a signature win on the road if you can. One thing I want to mention about Ja Morant, I forgot during the game breakdown we did earlier. One thing I did notice last night, I don't know if you remember when he came back for the injury, he basically said, man, I'm not even trying to dunk anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like tongue in cheek, right? It was kind of like, okay, come on. But I will say this, and it hasn't been every game that he's come back, but last night in particular, he really didn't have any full speed downhill acrobatic, kind of reckless abandon type of plays at the rim. And I thought he actually played too subdued. Half his shots were threes. He didn't really put that relentless pressure in the open floor on teams. So
that's a good point.
Something to keep an eye on going forward. Like, is he going to alter, even if he alters it by like 20%, like to what extent does that make him like different than what he used to be for us in watching him? I think it's something I'm going to be paying attention to the rest of the year.
That's a good point. Then lastly on Sunday, Suns at Magic, Wolves at Warriors, and then Rockets at Clippers. I hope we're talking about that game. I like both teams right now and how they play. That'll be a smash mouth basketball game. Any of those stand out to you?
I think Wolves Warriors. I mean, the fact that they got back-to-back games Friday and Sunday, Minnesota traveling out there and having to play them 2 times in a row. So, both of those games or whatever, take your pick. One of them's got to give us something good.
One of them will. That does it for our week, guys. We enjoyed your riding with us. Do we have any super chats, James? I don't remember if we did or did not.
None today.
We do not.
None today.
We appreciate everybody tuning in all week. We've had some great shows here. Next week is the NBA Cup, which should be really interesting. I'm actually very excited for that. There should be some good games and some exciting ones along the way. Legs, have yourself a nice weekend.
You too, Adam. Take care, buddy.
Everybody hit that like button on the way out. We'll see you on Monday.
Silly like the mayor.